Did you know there's certain industry terms that you need to know in the ATM business? Stay to the end of the video and I'm going to make you an ATM Business Pro in terminology. Hi, this is Phil from PDQ Merchant Enterprises and the ATM Mastermind group page, and I help hundreds of aspiring ATM business owners go from 0 ATMs to ATM Business Pro in as little as 30 days. Always remember, here at PDQ Merchant Enterprises and the ATM Mastermind group page, we buy your freedom back one transaction at a time. So without further ado, here we go. The top 5 industry standard terms that you'll need to know to become an ATM Business Pro. Terminology number 1, the processor. Phil, what's a processor? I heard about a processor, I'm not sure. What a processor is they are the company that process the transaction. So when a cardholder goes into your ATM with their debit card, they put it into your ATM, and then what happens is that ATM actually calls what we call the processor. And what they do is the processor now routes that transaction and looks at, in the back of your card, there are banks, NICE, Cirrus, Pulse, MasterCard, Visa, and what a processor does is going to route that transaction to your bank, and it's going to say, is the money available? And then if the funds are available, then it's going to dispense the money into the cardholder so they get their money, and it's going to keep track of that so you get your money back the next day. That whole function that happens in about 4 to 30 seconds is what the processor does over and over and over again. And that's what the processor does. And so when you're in the ATM business, you'll have to find a processor, but you won't be looking for that processor. You'll be looking for another company to get to the processor because you can't directly go to the processing company. So these are the companies that are processors that are out there right now. You have First ISO, you have Switch Commerce, you have CDS or Columbus Data System, and you also have FIS. Those are the 4 major processors that are out there. There's a couple other smaller ones that are up and coming, very good companies, but those are the major ones that we utilize in our space, what we call retail processing or retail processors. Those are the ones that we use. Now, some of the banks, they use different kind of processors, financial institution processors that you guys won't be privileged to, but those are the main. If you're thinking about getting an ATM business, those are the major ones that you're going to be looking for. Industry standard number 2 is the vault cashier. Phil, what's a vault cashier? Now, a vault cashier for this exercise is usually somebody who puts money in your ATM. Some of you guys are starting out in the business, you don't want to vault cash your own ATMs, or you would be considered a vault cashier. You want to go and hire a third party to put the money in the ATMs. That could be an armored car carrier service that could put the money in the ATMs, or you could hire a third party company, and what they'll do is they'll put their money into the ATM. They'll do the service for you guys. They'll help you with an install, and they'll take care of all and any of the service related issues. Now, truth be told, most of them, if something breaks in the ATM, they're not going to pay for it. That'll be your responsibility as the ATM owner, but the vault cashier will handle basically the day-to-day activities of the ATM. A lot of guys want to go this route. They don't want to handle the cash, and so this works out pretty good for them. Other people, they're more hands-on. They'll say, look, I'll be the vault cashier for my own route. I want to make more money, and this will be easier for me, and then that way you can minimize some of your expenses. But for some people, they want to grow their portfolio out of state, in different states, so they hire a vault cashier in different states or different parts of the country to help grow their portfolio when they can't get to those locations because they're just geographically hindered. Because they're 2, 3, 4 hours away, they still want to do the ATM business, but they can't drive. So if you're thinking about starting a profitable ATM business, but didn't know where to start, stay to the end of the video and I will show you a checklist of how to start your ATM business. So you can start off your ATM business the right way and avoid costly mistakes along the way. In this checklist, I will share with you the 5 things you need to know to start your profitable ATM business so you can build a passive income source for you and your family. You'll have a clear roadmap towards ATM business success so you can earn between $250 and $1,500 of passive income every single month. All right, let's get back to the video. Number 3, merchant, or what we also like to call is the location owner. So what is that? The location owner or the merchant, we refer to them right now in the way I always do it is we have the merchant, we have the agent, we have the ISO, but the merchant is the store owner. So every time we refer to a merchant, we're saying that the store owner. Now, sometimes the person who owns the ATM is the store owner. We still consider them the merchant, but they actually own their own ATM. So in the credit card world, in the ATM world, the person where the ATM is located is always considered the merchant. Number 4 is the agent. You heard me just throw that term out. What is an agent? So there are terms like you have the processor, you have the ISO, and the agent. An agent is somebody who's working under the ISO who goes out and they get different deals. We used to call those sub-ISOs back in the day. Now we refer to them as agent. They don't have to do the due diligence to contract with Visa, MasterCard, NiceSource, Pulse, and get quarterly audited, but the agent is responsible for getting the contractual agreements and giving them to the ISO to make sure everything is on the up and up. Some of the agents have started to build some of their own little portfolios. They have a couple guys what we consider underneath them. So if you're in the chat groups, you say, oh, I'm with this guy or that guy. They're just agents, but what they're doing is also building a little portfolio. Not only do they have their ATMs, but they have somebody else's that they're helping guideline through the process. Point number 5 is the ISO. What's the ISO? An ISO is a company who registers with a sponsor bank. For us, we're with Pueblo Bank and Trust, or PB&T. Some of the ISOs are with MetaBank, they're Citizen Bank, Prosperity Bank. These guys, these big companies are registered with those sponsor banks, and then again, they're registered with Visa, MasterCard, NiceSource, and Pulse. They have to get audited, quarterly audits, and they get a yearly audit. Make sure that we're doing all our due diligence the right way. Now, some people says, hey, I want to be an ISO. To be an ISO, you will have to do about a minimum of 100,000 transactions a month just to break even. But once you hit that platform, now you can leverage your portfolio to help bring additional revenue into your company. But you'll have to go through an audit trail, background checks. You have to background check everybody you're doing business with and make sure they're doing everything on the up and up. Your sponsor bank comes in and they're going to audit you, like I said, every quarter and then once a year. So how do you tell, Phil, how do you tell the difference between, I think I'm dealing with an agent, but he says it was an ISO? You can always look on your ATM, and your ATM will have a sticker that your ISO is supposed to provide for you. And on there, it'll tell you who is the ISO on your deal. So if you're dealing with a guy who says, hey, I'm an ISO, and then he gives you a PAI sticker, you're like, no, PAI is the ISO. Or they say, okay, I'm under Cardtronics, and then they give you, I'm an ISO under Cardtronics. No, you're an agent under Cardtronics. Cardtronics is the ISO. Those guys are just agents. So know who you're dealing with. Why is this important? Because a lot of guys say, oh, you know what? We don't need any kind of location agreement because you're dealing with the guy, but you don't know who you're really dealing with, and they could be moving your funds, manipulating your funds. So you always want to make sure that nothing's shady, everything's on the up and up. If you can, deal directly with your ISO, because that is your surefire way to make sure that you get your funds and the money is always going in your account. I've seen it before. Some of these agents from time to time, not saying everybody's bad, but there are a couple shady characters in this game and they have manipulated funds, and we don't want to do that. So make sure you know who you're dealing with and always try to deal directly with an ISO if it's possible. So if you're interested in starting your own ATM business, I want to invite you to my free checklist entitled the ATM Business Passive Income Checklist, where I'll share with you the top 5 things you need to start a profitable ATM business so you can make more money for your family, spend more time with your family, and create that passive income stream that you so desire. So click the link down below to register today. Again, this is Phil from PDQ Merchant Enterprises and the ATM Mastermind group page, where we buy your freedom back one transaction at a time. Thank you guys very much.